there, my name is Chantal. Welcome to my channel. I don't know about you, but I am super excited for Christmas. I've got this sketchbook out again. Last time we painted Elf, and this time we're going to be painting another Christmas film. So grab your art supplies and let's create together. Welcome to another episode of the Scene series. Today we're painting a scene from Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. There were a lot of Christmas movies that I could have chosen to paint a scene from, but Home Alone 2 is one of my favourites, and I also felt like the scene would look very different to Elf. That was another thing that I was considering. I love both the first and second Home Alone films, but I do prefer 2. They have similar ratings, so I'm really not sure if that's an unpopular opinion. I don't know, it's just something about being set in New York. I just find it so Christmassy. The second is so similar to the first. Being in New York, it just adds a little extra something. Plus, because I've been to quite a few of the locations, it's very sentimental. And I think that's partly why I love it so much. In case you haven't seen either of the films, which I completely recommend if you haven't, the story is about a family that leaves their child behind twice. In the first one, the house gets burgled whilst they're gone, and in the second one, a store gets burgled, but more importantly, the burglars, the wet bandits, find the child and they just want to get him. I understand that it's a big merged family with lots of children, but how do they literally manage to do the exact same thing the very next year? Well, I guess they do it slightly differently. In the first one, they just leave him in bed and completely forget about his existence. In the second one, they at least make sure that he's in the car. And then getting lost at the airport was kind of Kevin's fault. He's looking down, changing his camera battery, and he didn't notice that his family carried on running off. That's kind of what kids do, and it is the parents' fault for waking up so late and running through the airport in the first place. They're kind of a wild family. I watched both of them back to back yesterday, and one thing that I hadn't really noticed before is just how parallel the first and second film are. The beginning is identical, the way that it's filmed, with them jumping out of bed saying they've slept in and then the entire thing being sped up. Every single aspect of it is identical. Even to the point that when the family arrive in their destination and they're watching a film on TV, it's the exact same film in a different language. The first film is in French and the second one is in Spanish. And those little details I'd never noticed before because I've never watched them back to back, but it was so fascinating to watch it like that. And there's probably so many other things that I didn't pick up on, but they are literally identical. The film are a pair. The family are kind of awful though, I know that's the entire point. The mum is decent, the dad spends the entire film gaslighting her, and Buzz is just awful. All of the siblings are just so bad. But I'll never understand why a 15-year-old Buzz is being held to the same standard as an 8-year-old Kevin. Kevin's the one that always gets blamed, but they're not on the same level. Buzz is double his age. I never understood that and I still don't. As far as the extra characters go, I think they are better in this movie than the previous one. I love the pigeon lady, I forget her name, but she's so lovely. She's a fantastic character. I also love Duncan from Duncan's Toy Chest. I think both of those are more likeable than the slightly scary guy in the first film. There are so many scenes that I liked in this movie and so many that I could have chosen. I think the whole aesthetic of Home Alone 2 was just so much better than the first, and that's why this is the one that I chose to paint. But I had originally wanted to paint something from the montage in the beginning. Unfortunately, a lot of those scenes were really quite complicated because it was like a kid arriving in the big city. My second option was the one where Kevin's in the taxi driving into New York and he's got his head out of the taxi. That was the other option that I had. But in the end, I chose this iconic scene. So much of the movie is iconic. The tree is memorable. The colours are very dark because it's nighttime and I thought that would be a good challenge. And I'm using watercolour, so I thought the tree would be a really good challenge. I've never painted anything like this tree before and I had no clue whether this idea was going to work, so bear with me. I figured I could do 1 or 2 really dark layers of watercolour, and then it wouldn't matter how dark it is, I could just add gouache on top. The difficulty with the tree in the scene is that the tree is lit up, but the dark areas are still showing through the centre because it's a tree, it's not fully opaque the entire way through. And that's where using watercolour only would be really tricky. I think there are definitely ways to do this, just not ways that I'm comfortable with. I decided to use gouache. I felt it would probably be easiest to do the dark background and then just add all of the light areas in gouache. Because gouache is opaque, you can mix white, you can blend it out easily, I thought that would work really well. I can also then add the baubles wherever I want to as I go along. Other options would have been to use masking fluid. If you do lots of dots in masking fluid, you could probably have added the colour and blended it out. But I think that would be difficult to make it look smooth and like it's glowing. You could probably have used pastels or colour pencils. As long as you have pencils that are vibrant enough and the white is actually really going to show through, I think that could have worked. Acrylic probably could have worked too, but I thought gouache would be a little bit easier to blend out. There are lots of ways to approach the scene. I think whichever way I went, it would have ended up mixed media. I think that was just the easiest way to do it, and the watercolour background I think was the smartest move. And the watercolour background came together really quickly. I did the very first layer and I loved it. The way that it blended together, it was perfect. The buildings looked like buildings and it was really soft. I was so happy with how that turned out. I had used wet on wet and tried to make this scene as dark as possible. But unfortunately, as I was going in for the second layer, it just kept picking up the paint that was below. I had a lot of pigment down on this page and it just was not staying where it was supposed to. The painting process wasn't very difficult. I think the hardest part of this piece was trusting the process. Having never painted a nighttime scene like this before with light on top of the dark, I had no clue how this was going to go, and I just hoped that somehow I could pull it together. I didn't have much of a plan for the tree. You can see I just added some bright colours, then I added white on top, and I tried to blend it as best that I could. This somewhat worked. I tried lots of different methods. I swapped it around, I blended it at the beginning, I blended it at the end. Sometimes I did white first and added the colour afterwards. You can see that every single time I add it, I just do it slightly differently. I think I did come up with something that kind of worked. One of the biggest problems with this method though was the fact there were so many baubles and blobs that I was trying to add. So by the time I'd gone and added like a ton of orange and then gone over with white and then gone to blend, it was already dry. I did lots of different colours, but they ended up a lot muter when I added the white. But I do quite like that because when I was analysing the scene, it is very white. The tree is so light that you do barely see the colour, so it just needs to like hint at being a tree really. In the scene it's glowing, you can barely see the colour. It looks like a tree and I'm taking it. It doesn't matter how accurate it is, as long as it looks like a tree, that was my goal. And I really love the moody nighttime kind of feel. I think it's a really simplistic piece. Partly because I had kind of cropped out the bottom bit. The bottom had a lot of extra stuff. I chose a clip that cropped the scene a little bit because I wanted the Christmas tree to be the focus. I could have added a lot more detail on the statues and the buildings, but I wanted the Christmas tree to be the focus because it has so much importance in the film. And it's pretty much the end scene of the movie. It's iconic. I had to get it right. The star was surprisingly difficult because I felt myself adding what I think a star is and not actually what it looked like on top of the tree. I just kept trying to make it look more and more like a star, but it was difficult. In the actual clip, because it's so bright and the scene is so dark, it barely looks like a star, so that was really difficult to try and replicate. I'm also using my Himi Jelly Gouache and the white isn't super opaque, so this took quite a few layers to try and get it as bright as I needed to. Because I'm painting on such a dark layer, that probably would have been the case anyway. You can see I spontaneously decided to add some splatters as well. I've been splashing paint on a lot of my pieces. I feel like it just kind of ties the entire piece together. I don't know, the edges looked a little bit plain, so I just added some colourful splashes and I think it looks kind of cute. And now for the tape peel and the final reveal. I really hope you like this painting. It's dark, it's moody, it looks so different to anything else that I've painted so far in this series, and it's the first piece that uses a lot of gouache. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and if you have, please consider liking and subscribing, it helps my channel so much. Next episode, we're going to be painting a scene from Disney, and you're not going to want to miss that one. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you on Sunday for another video. Bye bye!